Tim Steidten's influence appears to be growing at West Ham at a time when many of us thought that we were at risk of losing him. Only today, The Athletic have produced an article where I think they reveal some quite interesting historical aspects of the relationship with Tim Steidten. And what I also think is really interesting is him sort of ring fencing himself with people that he's either worked with before or people that he knows, like his brother. And I just wonder if possibly some of the fear mongering, some of the doom mongering, responsible for a bit of that myself as well, let's be honest, is perhaps a little bit unfounded. Should we even be remotely worried about Tim Steidten leaving when he's appointing his brother and appointing his mate? What I found really interesting, Gio, was that the club are increasingly confident of keeping him.
Yeah, it does sound like that. That's what the article in The Athletic, it almost started off pretty negatively, saying, there's tension between Moyes and Steidten. But following it, the rest of it was all almost like pro-keeping Steidten at West Ham. It was making points as to why he'd probably still be here next season. And truth be told, I feel quite confident that he will be here. It's not just the West Ham side of things, it's the Liverpool side of things as well. And when that article came out, funnily enough, on The Athletic as well, who I think are a very well respected piece of journalism as well when they do it. They don't dibble-dabble on the sort of transfer rumours that perhaps other outlets would do. It's almost like serious journalism over there. Yeah. And when they did their update earlier on the week, and it was titled something like, "What do we know about Liverpool replacing Solanke? What are they doing for the sporting director?" And it told you how Liverpool was set up, what happened in the past with Liverpool, with Klopp's growing influence. And then it started listing names that have been linked to Liverpool or could go to Liverpool. Not once was Tim Steidten mentioned. And I found that quite, A, interesting, but B, encouraging as well. Because Steidten is someone they looked at previously, before getting Solanke. He was on the list 12 months ago, and they decided not to go for him. And rumours were it was Klopp that didn't want to work with Tim Steidten for whatever reason. But maybe there's more to it. Maybe there was something else that Liverpool perhaps didn't want Steidten for. So I'm quite encouraged by that and that he'll be here. But the interesting thing was, in regards to this, it finished up before speaking about other things. It said that West Ham are confident they can keep a hold of Steidten, and it would require a substantial compensation package to take him from them.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure. I'm pleased. I think the best bit about that for me is not the compensation package. I'm pleased to hear that the club are saying that they're confident. The compensation package, what can it be? It's not going to be 20 million, is it? So whatever, it's going to be considerably less than that. It's probably going to be 5 or 6 million. I don't think that's prohibitive towards a club like Liverpool if they really, really want someone. So I think I'm really pleased. And do you know what? I think if he went to Liverpool, particularly listening about their structure, and their structure, as far as I know, and I only know this because I heard Christian Purslow talk about it once, but this sort of transfer committee that they have and the way that they sort of delegate certain tasks to certain people, and, sort of everybody has their say, that leads me to believe that they're not going to throw that out. If they're going to retain the ownership of the Fenway Group, they're not going to have sort of one all-powerful director of football who gets to decide everything. However, whilst it might not at the moment be going absolutely to Tim Steidten's way that he would hope for at West Ham, I do believe he's sort of serving a bit of an apprenticeship himself. I know you sort of alluded to this when he first joined. You didn't think he was the all-conquering hero that many people were saying, but he was still learning his trade. This is his first step up and his first sort of top job. And I think if he's a little bit clever at West Ham and he bides his time and he plays the long game, then I actually think he can become that sort of all-powerful person at West Ham. He might have to see David Moyes off. He might have to get a couple more transfers over the line. He might have to show patience. But I think if he's going to continue to sort of populate the scouting network and everybody else, and, say the data department, I mean, it is funny. You've got that can conjure up pictures in your mind that's probably not totally reflective of West Ham. It may well be one bloke with a laptop in a porter cabin. But if he can start to build that section of things up, then he becomes so powerful that actually he is the department and he is the footballing aspect of it. And I was certainly quite encouraged by those comments, has to be said.
Yeah, other random comments. We're not going to dive too much into this unless Collins wants to. It just stated that his office is based at the training ground, no surprise, but it's next to Rob Newman, George Santos and Adam Clark as they monitor what's going on and who they want to get in. And then it said, in January, members of the West Ham board were reluctant to engage in further contract talks with Ben Johnson, who is entering the final months of his deal. The versatile defenders turned down 2 contract offers, and Steidten wants to keep him. I find that interesting.
Well, it's nice as well. It's nice. I think probably if you're a director of football, the good way to flex your muscles and to demonstrate how smart you are is to go and get a load of people that you've never heard of. Right? Oh, look, you haven't heard of him. I'm going to bring him in. But to actually take someone from the academy who's already known to West Ham, is at West Ham, and actually there's a wisdom in that, I think, to say, actually, I think you should be keeping him. Yeah, I could show off and I could go and bring in another right back from Serie B in Italy or something like that. But you've got a good one here, and it's probably quite wise to keep him. The only thing that troubles me, and I like that, the only thing that troubles me is, and I guess we'll have to wait until Brentford, Gio, it's the Ben Johnson aspect of it. We can want to keep him all we want, but David Moyes is going to need to throw him a bone. It may well be that actually it gets towards the end of the season, maybe David Moyes goes, and then Steidten says, look, we're going to incorporate you more. I'm going to bring in a coach. I've already spoken to the coach. He likes you as a player. It may well be that both Steidten and Ben Johnson have to see David Moyes off before they both get what they want, you know?
Yeah, I think it's encouraging as well that Steidten wants to keep him at the club, and it's got to be a nice nod to the academy as well. If you're a youngster coming through and you've got this celebrity director of football, it might be a bit harsh, but Scarfman's rocked up and he likes to dibble-dabble in transfers and stuff, and you might think, oh, great, here we go. My route's already difficult enough to get into the first team. Now I'm going to see, because this is what we go back to when we were talking about Ibrahim Osman and those who were, and I say those, I mean the subscribers of Hammers Chat who were reluctant to sign Ibrahim Osman. And it's got nothing to do with the player's ability. I think those who want to sign him and don't want to sign him, it's got nothing to do with what you see, because I don't believe many people have ever watched him play. But there's a really valid point made by a few subscribers, which was, what does this say to Callum Marshall? This guy's the same age as you, but instead of putting you in the first team, we're going to spend 18 million on him and put him in the first team ahead of you. And that is a danger when you start bringing in teenagers, essentially. You're telling that crop of players at your club already, this guy who plays in the same position as you, we're willing to spend millions on him. It basically tells you might as well leave. So I think re-signing academy players to the first team is maybe just it's just a smither, just a small arm around the academy from Tim Steidten, which says, don't worry, I'm interested in this just as much as I'm interested in hooking someone else in, as you said. Now, the last point, well, actually, we'll make it the second last point. What was also, I say interesting, wasn't really, to imagine this. It started off with the article. It said about how Tim Steidten went for his interview with David Sullivan, and he gave him like a presentation, as you would when you're a job application. He did let's just call it a PowerPoint presentation, nice. Old school, and he displayed some of the players he'd helped attract to Werder Bremen and Bayer Leverkusen, and about how he likes to bring in young talent, and he's very confident he could do the same at West Ham. And apparently Sullivan and other members of West Ham who were interviewing Steidten was very impressed by all this, and that's part of the reason he got the job. Then now, obviously, we know, fast forward to January, and we've got, nah, that young...
Want to get Calvin Phillips in.
Yeah, we'll have that one. But here's the interesting thing. It spoke about how David Moyes did his due diligence on Mohamed Kudus and Edson Alvarez. He utilised his contacts with Johnny Heitinga and Stephen Pienaar, and he wanted those two players. And it went on to say that the recruitment team, which obviously includes Tim Steidten, the recruitment team suggested Sofiane Amrabat, who we remember from the Fiorentina game, now plays for Man United, but Moyes was less inclined to pursue a deal. It goes on to say they were unanimous about targeting Bournemouth striker Dominic Solanke, so Steidten and Moyes both wanted Dominic Solanke, but had an offer rejected. And it just goes on to talk about strikers at West Ham, and if Tim Steidten can get that right, that could define his legacy at West Ham.
That's actually quite exciting. You know, that shows a level of cooperation that many would suggest is not there. That obviously they're at each other's throats all the time. Look, do I want to? I would rather see a situation where Tim Steidten is eventually, you know, has a coach that you know, maybe is more aligned to him. I think it's nice to hear that, but only off the back of such a terrible transfer window when, you know, the only business that was done was Phillips coming in. I think Moyes was probably perfectly placed to decide whether he wanted Amrabat or not, having would have seen him at close quarters, you know, last season. So yeah, maybe you don't know. Maybe there was some words with manoeuvred as well, and you know, so I think there's one of the, not one of the few, but Moyes was probably very well placed. He's not even relying on scouting reports to make a decision on Amrabat. He's seen him, and that's so. Look, I guess that's really good. If what we're saying is that scouting team recommended Kudus, they recommended Alvarez, and then Moyes signed off on them, then that's promising. I just wish a few more players were signed off on. So I think what we're seeing here, Gio, is a lot more cohesion and a lot more of the team working together. I'm quite buoyed. I feel that's quite positive, this article, and I feel more positive about Tim Steidten now, certainly.
The other thing I would note is that that's another player, Solanke here, that's another player that Moyes and Steidten both wanted and agreed upon, that Sullivan was unable to get into the club. And, you know, we talk about lack of striker. Well, according to the Athletic, and I think the interest in Solanke felt genuine in the summer. Sure. But according to the Athletic, we bid for him and had it rejected. But Moyes and Steidten wanted him, but Sullivan was the one that was unable to do his part of the transfer and get Solanke in. Now, I don't think anyone predicted Solanke to have the season he's currently having. When he was, you know, I'm not going to lie. When we were linked to him in the summer, I was like, oh, here we go again. Like paying over the odds for what is an average Premier League
a journeyman.
Turns out he's looking really good this season. So the Steidten and Moyes would be right to turn around and say, well, we called that back last summer. We should have got him. That's who we wanted. His price has obviously gone up. You know, we've been linked to him again this week. His price will be a lot more than what it would have been in the summer. But it's another player that those two wanted, but the club failed to attract as well. So, like I said, the article starts off negatively, which was this tension between Moyes and Steidten. And obviously a lot of these examples, the Solanke one was in the summer. We've had a transfer window since then, which yielded Calvin Phillips on loan, and that is it. So it's possible that maybe the relationship has gone downhill since those moments that the Athletic's speaking about. But regardless, I thought it was an interesting piece by them, actually. And like you said, the bit that we should perhaps focus on, which is that West Ham are confident of retaining Tim Steidten. Yeah. I think that's the most important thing, because whether we actually bid for Solanke or not, whether Moyes was the one that wanted Alvarez and Steidten preferred Amrabat, it doesn't really matter now. That's gone. It's in the past. Yep. It doesn't really change what happens in the summer. But keeping Tim Steidten certainly does alter the future of West Ham United. And hopefully the club are as confident as they're making on. I just find it strange to leak to the Athletic that A, they're confident, but B, there's tension between Steidten and Moyes. It feels a little bit contradictory to some extent. Oh, we're going to keep... Tim will stay. Oh, so how's he getting on? Not good. Not good with the manager. It does feel a little bit like the whole people under the bus campaign is continuing, just taking a different angle at it almost now. But
yeah, listen, it's going to play out. I think we're going to find out really, really shortly how this plays out. Certainly the next 3 games, I do believe, are actually crucial for David Moyes. But what I do like is I'm no longer worried about a succession plan about it. I think if he's wielding his influence, I'm just really pleased. I think we might not get a manager we absolutely all want. How could we? We want different managers, and we're all dismissing different managers. At some point, they're going to have to get a manager. What I am more confident of is that we have somebody in place in Tim Steidten that will steer the chairman away from the likes of Rafa Benitez and people he might have traditionally gone for. I think there is somebody who can maybe get his PowerPoint presentation out again. So there you go. There you have it. Let us know what you think in the comments about Tim Steidten's future at West Ham. What I just want to do is point you in the direction of match bingo. I'm not going to go on about it for ages. This weekend, the free game is the West Ham Brentford game. It's free to play. Normally, it's £2 per play to get invested and to get into that game. The app is linked in the description below. There'll be a QR code up there somewhere, either above Gio's head or my head, wherever I decide to edit it in. Get it downloaded to your phone. It's 18 and above, but this is the free game for this week. It will give you a bingo card. We've already had at least four winners from Hammer's Chat, just from you guys in the comments already. Go and win yourself some money. Links in the description below. Match bingo. Gio, cheers, mate.
Ta-da!